But I did have a question for you guys. What do you think Eddie Vedder sounds like when he has an orgasm? Just think about that.
I don't have to
And
think about
welcome
it. That's
back
just what it
to
sounds
Friends
like.
Occasionally Not Disagreeing.
Saw that coming.
Very excited to be here with Joe and Brett this week as we're looking at another big album drop that came out recently on April 19th. I'm talking, of course, again about
Taylor
UB40
Swift.
45th
Oh,
anniversary album. So, anyway, let's do a little quick round the horn here. Joe, you been up to anything we haven't heard from you recently?
yeah, I wanted to mention a movie I watched recently, which is probably one of the most unique movies I've ever seen.
You say the Eras Tour, so help me God.
It is not the Eras Tour.
Okay.
Close though. It's a movie called Hundreds of Beavers. Hundreds of
I
Beavers.
think you're being serious, but I'm not 100% sure.
I am being serious. It's not a porno, anyone. Hundreds of Beavers is a very independent movie that was made in Wisconsin a couple years ago now. I think it was actually finished in 2022, but it's only kind of just been released. I don't even really know how to describe this movie. It's kind of like a live action Looney Tunes cartoon. Um, the main character in the movie is an Applejack salesman, which is like an apple brandy, named Jean Kayak. And long story short, the movie involves him having to kill literally hundreds of beavers, as the title implies. Um, One of the weird, unique things about this movie is that all the animals in it, including the titular beavers, are played by human actors, basically wearing mascot costumes. So they're just like very cartoonish, like beaver and other animal costumes that these people are wearing.
This is terrifying. I'm looking at the
And they
trailer.
don't they don't do any trickery to try to make it look like they're like animal size. It's just full on humans, like as tall as the main character, like playing these raccoons that he's trying to fight.
Raccoons, what?
I mean beavers, sorry. There are also raccoons involved. I'm so sorry. But it's hilarious. It's a very nearly silent film. It's in black and white, so it's got kind of a
This is something crazy, man.
it's so weird. It is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen, but it's like amazing. It's hilarious. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah, I really don't know how to describe it, but Hundreds of Beavers, it's available to rent now on video on demand. Support the people who made this movie. It's a very, very independent, presumably very low budget, but also very entertaining movie. So check it out.
Anarchic slapstick action comedy, it's labeled as. What in the world?
That sounds perfect. That's like a perfect description.
I could see this as being a movie that I would be laughing throughout, and my wife would be cursing my name to the
Yeah.
depths of hell for making her watch this.
One of Cody, do you know Scott Stone from NMU? He
The
was
name sounds
a
familiar.
fellow English grad student.
Name sounds familiar. I got an image. I don't know if it's him for sure or not, but
Well, he apparently saw me mention this on Facebook and checked it out and like thanked me for mentioning it because he enjoyed it so much. So
got a tattoo.
I'm not the only weirdo.
You got a tattoo of hundreds of beavers. Well, that's definitely something. So I guess you've been up to something. All right, Brett, what have you been up to?
Um, we are. I'd mentioned previously that I had, with the Fallout sales that were going on with the release of the series, I picked up like 4 of the games, and so I've been kind of like tinkering with them a little bit here and there, but primarily I dove pretty fully into Fallout 76 again, which, as I said, was the only one that I played because I really wanted to kind of jump back because I enjoyed the bit I played with it the first time and kind of wanted to just get back and just see because I'd heard that they improved it considerably since release, which on release it was basically empty was the biggest complaint people had, was that there was like no NPCs to talk to hardly, like to get that interesting dialogue that the games always have, and like quests and things like that. It's just like you felt like you're completely alone on this
Mm.
map. And they have since gone in and added tons of there's NPCs everywhere now. Like everywhere you go, there's people to run into and talk to. And long story short, it now is essentially as much a Fallout game as any of the other ones.
You're gonna
From
make me play Fallout 76, damn it.
and this is not strictly my words. This is like from other people who I know and I value their opinions, that they say that Fallout 76 is now one of the best games in the Fallout series. The one caveat to it being that it is only online. And so you occasionally run into other players. But if you choose to have those options turned off, like they really can't, like they can't hurt you in any way. They can't ruin your missions or anything. They're just there in the world. And if you choose to interact with them, you can.
That's cool.
Though when I first started the game, I came out of the vault and immediately there was two people in power armor standing there, like to greet me. Yeah, and that's the reaction I had, was like, oh God, these guys are gonna troll the shit out of me. Like I'm still, I don't know the controls of this game yet. I'm still trying to remember stuff, and they're just gonna like mess with me. But they actually like gave me a bunch of stuff like ammo, and like they got me to my first set of power armor, and so that's to my knowledge that the community is actually like really good in this game as well. Like you don't run into trolls a whole lot. It's people helping each other out. So, yeah, Fallout 76. It's been a lot of fun when I've been playing with it again. And if you didn't like it the first time, I would recommend going back and giving it on a try.
Nice. Well, I also have been doing some video gaming recently. Just earlier today, thanks to a spree the last few days, I finally finished, after 5 months, my playthrough of Fire Emblem Engage, which I did not enjoy as much as Fire Emblem Three Houses, I'm sad to say, but it was decent. I just felt like there wasn't as much like character and story to it as there was in that game. But from what I read, I guess I was kind of spoiled with that being my first entry because it has maybe the most of any of them. So I am now in the market, if you will, and I brought this up to you gents off air as well, but I am going to be very soon here going through my backlog to decide what to play next. Very exciting moment to be at here for me. I also have been just going to call it what it is. Dave had asked us to do a couple of games months back as well, and I was playing his second game of the trilogy called Telling Lies for off and on maybe 2 months as well now. And I admit that I have now started cheating, and I have, in fact, actually just been watching the YouTube videos of the game to see where this goes. But it has like a unique interface where, like, if you find a video clip, it's only like half of a phone call, video call back and forth. So unless you have like the two side by side, you don't really get the full impression anyway. So it kind of works out that I'm cheating to do that. But I'm pretty excited to pick something new. Might even do that later tonight or tomorrow. We'll see. But always exciting. Yeah. And also should say, also picked up a Fallout game, as I think I shared. Fallout 4 also, as I was excited from the TV show also, which I'm just about through. So there we go. Sweet. All right, let's do this. Well, as mentioned on the onset here, ladies and gents, we are talking about another album that came out on April 19th, and it's not the UB40 45th Anniversary Edition. Go check that out, though, for real.
It's the Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift.
It's the extremely longer version of the Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift, not the 31-track version. She has since released a 66-track version that we are now checking out, so... It doesn't even have the songs from the original album. Those have been taken off, and it's 66 new songs with the same title for the album. So it's a little confusing. You're all Swifties. You'll figure it out, I'm sure. All right. No, actually, we're talking about the latest release by Pearl Jam, which is a band I hadn't thought about in a hot minute, I'll be honest. But this had some buzz about it, so I suggested this as another music follow-up here for a new release. And I just wanna ask you guys on the onset here, where were you when Eddie Vedder first really touched you?
It was in the backseat of a Volkswagen.
Ah, yes. Was it yellow?
It was. Um, are you asking what our history with Pearl Jam is like?
When did you guys first get into slash listen to Pearl Jam, if at all?
Well, uh, it was definitely in the years when I was really starting to pay more attention to music and not just listen to my parents' music all the time, which was excellent music by the way. But um, we yeah, I definitely that was my early teen years when they were really big, and so that was certainly one of the bands that was kind of formative for me. Um, Certainly heard their songs a shitload of times in those years, in those high school years. So, uh, but I kind of like you mentioned, like I haven't thought or really even listened to any of their music in a long, long time. Um, so it was interesting to kind of dive back in and just see like where they're at in their career.
Yeah. Joe, how about you?
This is kind of blowing my mind right now because apparently I was 8 years old when Pearl Jam's debut album came out, which had multiple of their huge songs,
You
Alive, Even Flow, and Jeremy.
you weren't even 10 when 10 came out?
I was not even 10 when 10 came out, and it's weird to me because oh boy. I mean, I definitely have memories of, like the Jeremy music video was a huge thing, and
Yeah.
like those songs are everywhere, and I remember liking them. And honestly, it's boggling my mind because I always feel like I don't have many memories in general from before I was like a teenager. So it's just strange that it was that early. But yeah, I mean, I always like those songs. They've had a number of singles over the years that I've always enjoyed. Weirdly, though, they're a band that I've never really sat down and listened to one of their albums before this one. They've always been a band where like I really like several of their songs. One of their songs is probably one of my top 10 favorite songs of all time. But I've never just like sat down and listened to Pearl Jam intentionally for
We
the
can't
most
just
part.
drop that. What's the song?
It's it's one I mentioned in our chat because it does not officially have any lyrics, and it is
Oh,
Yellow Ledbetter,
gotcha.
which I mostly love because of the guitar part. It's got like one of the greatest guitar tones of all time. Um, and I mean the lyrics are the same as any other Pearl Jam song, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah, this is kind of the opposite of our last music episode.
Yeah, well,
All lyrics to what are the lyrics?
I mean, I didn't know if I was allowed to mention that we were kind of recording two music episodes around the same time, but yeah, I was
Well, it's
thinking
been
it's
a
funny
week, so go
because
ahead.
like
You can talk
that's
about it.
true. Whereas with Taylor Swift, like I'm mostly interested in the lyrics. For Pearl Jam, I don't know if Eddie Vedder is even interested in the lyrics. Like, I mean, it is. I feel like I'm judging Pearl Jam much more on what you were talking about with Taylor Swift as far as like what does the song sound like. I'm more interested in that I am in figuring out whatever that means.
That's hilarious. All right. Sweet. I'd have to say probably for me it's about the same, which is I don't think I mean, it's been years and years and years since I've listened to anything by Pearl Jam. I'm pretty sure in the last 5 years, I actually somehow obtained a CD of 10. I don't know really where it came from at this point now, but I believe it's like in my car, and I don't even know where it
Hmm.
came from because I didn't have it. Like it's not mine. It's popped up recently. Um, but yeah, definitely the first two, three albums, I think a lot of the songs off that, the popular ones, I think I knew pretty well back in rotation back in the day, but this is always a band that's a little humorous to me because I know trivia wise, their most successful song, if you quiz people to like name their biggest commercial success song, people will guess all of these things before guessing their cover of Last Kiss, which is their actually most successful commercials song that they put out.
Wow,
So,
that's
which is
crazy.
a
That's
great
pretty
song,
wild.
but
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. So anyway, well, let's jump into just a little bit here. I'm not going to spend a ton on this, but we haven't talked about Pearl Jam before on here. This is their 12th full studio album they've put out. Like I said, last episode, interestingly, we just did Taylor with her 11th. Currently, this has an 81 on Metacritic since its release. Taylor has a 76, just putting that out there.
What?
But what we did talk about last week was Taylor's only got 18 years between her first and last album. Pearl Jam has 32 and a half. So definitely frequency. They don't put a lot of stuff out very often here. That's for sure. Band itself, just for like 2 seconds on this, everybody knows Eddie Vedder, the lead singer for Pearl Jam, and people might be familiar with some of the other longtime members of the band here. Mike McCready on guitar, notably Matt Cameron for drums, and then some
Mike,
other guys here as well. Go ahead.
Mike McCready, notably a friend of Jason Isbell.
Score just went down on this for a little bit right
It's
there.
true.
Yes,
He's appeared on stage with him
that's
multiple
fair.
times.
What else we got here? Bassist Jeff Ament, and we got another guitarist here, Stone Gossard. Couple past members, which are interesting, who you see in here, including Matt Chamberlain, which I thought was interesting because I mentioned in the last podcast Tori Amos, and he was in her band for a while as well. So anyway, very successful band. They've been around for a very long time. They are my uncle-in-law's favorite band of all time as well. I got him a bunch of Pearl Jam stuff because I had his name for Secret Santa this year in the gift exchange. So I got him a hat from Fenway Park from when Pearl Jam was there.
Nice.
Shipped it to him, and
Wow.
interestingly, he was like, "I was at that concert," and I was like, "Oh, you don't have this, do you?" Also sent him a 5-pack of Funko Pops of Pearl Jam, and then I was like, "Wait, he doesn't care about these." And then I tried to get the seller to switch and send him to me instead, but it was too late. Damn it. Got him something else. I can't remember what the third Pearl Jam thing I got was. But anyway, I figured they're going to a good home. So
Was it a jar of Pearl Jam?
I don't think it was actually, but yeah, I don't know what else to say about the band itself. Originally named Mookie Blaylock after the NBA player. That's a fun little trivia tidbit for us as well. We did the Chris Cornell podcast, so we heard Eddie Vedder's back vocals on the Temple of the Dog songs on that. So, but yeah, they're hugely successful, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one of the best-selling bands of all time, and took it on Ticketmaster prior to Taylor Swift. So there's that as well. Totally coincidental. All right, let's get into this. So, how about like we did last week? You guys want to just kind of throw some general thoughts out, or if you got a particular track you want to pop up for us to focus on, we could do that as well.
I like the one where Eddie Vedder's like,
I liked that one. Liked that
Classic.
one a lot. No.
I will say I was kind of surprised from the start at how kind of heavy and hard this album is at times, in terms of like it's almost borderline metal at times, just like the heavy distorted guitars and whatnot. I mean, right from the title or the opening track, Scared of Fear kind of is hard hitting.
Yeah.
I do feel like the lyrically the song that song is not the greatest. The title Scared of Fear almost reminds me of like something, it would be like the name of a Spinal Tap song or something. Like it's almost parody, but just musically, I was kind of surprised at how heavy it is right out of the gate.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when I when I first started listening to the tracks, there were like I had moments where I was like, oh, so this is what their music kind of evolved into. It's because it like I felt certain like it had like a lot of like synthesized kind of sounds in there. And then the second time listening through, I like didn't hear them. So I don't know what was up with that exactly.
Creepy.
But it sounded more straight, like guitar and drums and just hard rock sounds the second time listening through. But I also was taken a little bit with how kind of heavy it kind of comes out of the gate with the first several songs really. They all rock pretty hard. It kind of in contrast to the way their sound was in the 90s. You had some songs that were like that, but generally I think they're a little softer musically.
Hmm. Yeah, I also enjoyed the variety in this one. I would say just different stylistically, different tones. A lot of guitar solos on this too, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah, those kind of took me a little bit off guard. I was not expecting those. And like they were all really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I will say, Cody, you're talking about the variety. I actually had a similar issue to this album as I did to the Taylor Swift album, in that I feel like there are maybe a handful of songs that sounded unique, but I do feel like there are a number of songs on this album that sound pretty similar sonically.
I don't disagree with you fully on that.
Yeah.
There's definitely 4 or 5 I think that sound different than the rest, but I do agree with you somewhat on that for sure. I noted a lot. I don't know if it was actual influences or not, but I did note in my liners here about the different songs, like comparisons. It's just what I've been doing for our music reviews, but I have you might be able to guess what song these are, maybe if you think about it. This will be interesting. So I wrote down in no particular order. This one reminds me of the Beatles a little bit. I have one that I wrote down, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. I have one that I wrote down, Bad Religion, the punk band, and then I have one that I wrote down, Don Henley on. So,
That's weird because I have two songs that I thought sounded very much like they would be from other artists, but it was none of the ones that you just mentioned.
ooh, I'm intrigued. Okay. Well, why don't we chat about a couple of these songs? So, what were some of the standout tracks for you guys?
I mean, one of mine, I have the second track actually, React Respond, reminded me of Red Hot Chili Peppers in a way.
Hmm.
It's very like bass forward. There's like a bass groove going on, and the way that Eddie Vedder sings the vocals, it's a very kind of like rapid fire. Like it kind of reminds me of Anthony Kiedis.
I can see that.
Um, I definitely liked the sound on Dark Matter quite a bit. I think that's probably my favorite song on the album. Um, it I don't have like really a lot of notes on it though, other than I did really enjoy it. I thought it was it has kind of a unique sound to it, and is pretty heavy as well at the same time. Um, yeah, I guess I'm not sure what else to say about it, but that's probably my favorite one.
That song actually almost reminds me of Rage Against the Machine.
Ooh, I was
That
listening
that's fair. Yeah,
to them
it
all
does have a
running
lot of like
today.
that bass in the
There's the
beginning.
bass and like there's like a kind of like fast, like funky guitar beat going on that reminds me of Tom Morello.
You do like your Tom Morello.
I do not.
No, I like that song as well quite a bit. I think that was their lead single. I didn't check that for sure, but I think that was.
I think I read that it was. Well, it has on YouTube Music. It has 2.4 million plays, and the next closest track is like a fifth of that. So I'm gonna
Oh,
assume
okay.
that was a
Mhm.
single.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote down really fun background rhythms in that song, I noted, and then I also put down I liked the vocal tone variety in that song in particular as well. That was one of my more favorite songs as well, I would say. It's not my top song, but it's close to the top song.
I will have to say how that was because I was so we kind of had like a trade. I asked my wife if she would listen to the Taylor Swift album with me. Okay, so I
Mm.
could get some thoughts on there, and then I also made her listen to some of the Pearl Jam songs. And she really enjoyed herself with this song, getting all the lyrics wrong. So
That's amazing.
That's fun.
I'm gonna take a guess at maybe the one that Cody thought sounded like the Beatles.
Okay, give it a shot.
Is it Wreck-It?
It's not.
Ooh,
That's the one I said Don Henley for, though.
okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
I like the jingly guitar tone on that song, and it is, I don't know. I guess I could maybe see the Don Henley thing. It does feel kind of like easy listening almost. Like it's very kind of like chill, like
Yeah.
dad rockish.
Yeah. Good terminology. This one is interesting. Kind of listening to our two albums from the last couple episodes here. The more I did listen to Taylor, she actually did go up a little bit on a couple songs here and there. Pearl Jam went down a little bit on a couple of these, with the exception of this song, which actually grew to be my top rated song on the album.
Wow.
I liked this one quite a bit, and I think it's really fun. I guess maybe when I was saying like variety of the tracks on this, part of what I was saying is like you go from the Reactor Spawn to this, right? And then you go from this to Dark Matter. And it's like you don't know where the hell the next song's going with this. Like
Yeah, that's fair.
it's all over the place, which I liked.
The samey songs are not all next to each other.
Right.
For the most part, I think that's true. There's a couple coming up here that might be maybe a little exception to that, but
Mhm.
yeah, I
One,
liked
one,
Wreckage quite a bit. Go ahead, Brett.
just one kind of pattern that I kind of picked up on, which uh generally I really enjoy in songs, but it felt like it like was like almost every song. So I like started noticing it. But it like the first half of the song was quality, but kind of just a little bit basic. And then like the second half of the song, they like kind of kicked it into another gear,
Hmm.
which also include a lot of those guitar solos, um, and like some vocal tone shifts and things like that. Um, but it seemed like that was a a definite pattern in the album that I found.
Hmm. Okay.
Not that
Yeah,
it's a
I can see that.
negative, just something I noticed.
Yeah, I do. I feel like several of the songs have possibly unnecessary buildups at the beginning where there's like kind of something going on for like over a minute sometimes before it gets to what the song actually is,
Mm.
and it doesn't always work for me.
What did you
Uh,
guys? I got to ask on this one because it just really stood out. I think on the album as different again. But what did you guys think of "Running," the little 2 minute 19-second song?
I enjoyed it for how like fast paced it was. Like the name, the title of the track fits the song well, is that it's
Sure.
much faster, and it's like a really fun. It's fun rock kind of. um
it's all
yeah,
sound and
even
fury
like
signifying nothing.
Also, what?
uh
A Sound of Fury.
I said it's yes. What were you saying, Brett? Sorry.
I just noticed that like the like he's really getting the lyrics out quickly in that song as well. Like I don't know that I've ever heard him sing that fast. So that guy was like, just something I noticed.
Yeah, I like this song. It does rock pretty hard, but I don't feel like there's really much substance to it, which might be indicative of my feelings on the album in general. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I like this one just from what it. I got to put a little bit of like what it was because it's a 2 minute song. I liked it for what it was.
Yeah.
This is the one I said Bad Religion for because you could almost swap out the vocals 1 to 1, I think, with that group, and so I don't think the song would really change that much. But um,
I think I have your Pink Floyd figured out.
yeah, you want to give it a shot?
And I think it's a song that I have marked as someone very different. Is it Upper Hand?
It is.
Okay,
Nice.
so this is a song where I don't know if I need a minute and 34 seconds before it gets to the actual song, but I'm guessing your Pink Floyd thing is mostly based on that intro.
Very well could be.
I think the song itself reminds me very much of Soundgarden.
Ooh,
Like once you get past that like super synthy intro, I could easily like I almost hear Chris Cornell singing this song when I listen to this version. That's how much
Yeah.
it reminds me of a Soundgarden. It's like a Soundgarden song with the guitar part from Yellow Ledbetter kind of laid under it in parts, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've actually got it on right now, and I can hear what you're saying. Yeah, their instruments tonally aren't the same, but the way they're played is very similar to a what could be a Soundgarden song, and the way that the lyrics are sung is also
Yeah.
similar. Yeah.
I got a mark down on that. I'm gonna have to listen to them again and get back to you on that. But it's interesting. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, I liked that one as well. Another fun solo on that one. Upper
I will
hand.
say that is my favorite track on the album.
Upper hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. My least favorite track on the album, although it wasn't a terrible score, was the one that I thought was kind of my more Beatles-ish mixed with something I wrote down, which was Something Special down here on track 9. Can't remember exactly what about it made me think of them, but something.
I'm listening to it right now, and I have no idea what you were thinking.
I think I that was one of them. There definitely are a couple of songs near the end of the album where I definitely was not as into those as some of the earlier ones. I that's
Yeah, I think Something Special might be my least favorite track on the album.
Look at us agreeing. Might be that, I don't know, just kind of like that simple.
It's just like it's like too rudimentary almost.
That's
Like
the
just too
Beatles.
basic.
You just cracked the code.
Uh,
They're so simple. You got it. You did it. All right, let's check out a couple other ones here. What did you guys? I was curious. What did you guys think of the one at the end of this album, Setting Sun, the longer one, 5 minutes 44 seconds. Might be the is it the longest one? Upper Hand's a little longer, but it's close.
it's okay.
It's okay.
I'm trying. I know I definitely had thoughts on it. Well, I got it up right now. I'm trying to listen to it a little bit because my thoughts on it were that it felt like a good closing song. Like it had a different tone to it that seemed to be like, hey, this is the end of the album. That's the way it felt to me.
Yeah.
Um, and I do enjoy when that is the case on an album. Like, like it's giving you an exclamation point on the end.
Yeah, I agree. I mean it is a good album closer. It does feel appropriate there, but I liked it, but it didn't like knock my socks off or anything.
Hmm.
Yeah, it did feel like one of those old old school. When I say old school, I mean like 90s into the maybe early 2000s, like album closer, like you're all saying right here. Um, I don't know if this song is supposed to have more that it's saying, as I'm re-looking at lyrics here while I was listening to it a little bit, but I don't know. It's just like forever has come and gone. And that is actually something I noted in this album, which is and I haven't listened to them for a long time again, but they were performing when I was young, so these guys are like 60 or pushing 60 at this point, and there definitely seemed to be like a through line on the album. I thought of like Mortality with like them like realizing they probably don't have a ton of time left, kind of being like reminiscing slash maybe using a little measuring stick here to see how much time they have left. That came through in a few songs for me, I would say.
It,
There's a lyric that I'm sorry, Brett.
no,
I actually wrote down a lyric that really spoke to me from this album. So I mean it kind of goes along with what you're talking about. Let me read that for you now.
Oh,
Lost in the tunnel and the tunnel's getting funneled. Like the sewage in the plumbing, 'cause we left the fucking water running. It just speaks to my soul. It's so deep. There's a swear word in there that feels totally necessary
You do love a good
when you're
colonoscopy.
talking about sewage stuck in the plumbing because we left the fucking water running.
Yeah. What song is that off of?
It's off of Running.
Oh, yeah. That would make sense. It's
Talk
deep.
about a tortured poets department. I
You want
mean,
to go into that a little bit more? Or...
that's all I've got on that.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see here. Other songs to mention. We've hit most of them, I would say. The ones I said had like another artist they reminded me of. I put down who that specifically kind of was when I was listening, but then I had other ones here like we don't need to go into all these, but like Got to Give, I just mentioned like kind of like more of a bluesy rock feel to that one. I don't know what Waiting for Stevie's supposed to reference, but I said the song reminds me of something, and I never was able to place what it was. Did you guys have any impressions from that one at all? It really reminded me of something. I just couldn't figure out
I,
what.
I did read that the title actually is a reference to Stevie Wonder. There
Actually?
was, yeah, there was some event where like Eddie Vedder and a producer he was working with were like waiting for Stevie Wonder to show up to a thing, and they like came up with this song while they were waiting for Stevie. The song is not actually about that at all. It's just a title apparently,
Okay.
but like that's where the title came from.
It's pretty funny.
Uh,
Um,
I I I did enjoy this one quite a bit. One thing I noted on it was it definitely sounds a lot more like early Pearl Jam
Hmm.
than other tracks on this album.
yeah, I
Um,
could see that.
and I but it was also one where it kind of uh it felt it felt very same, like kind of like I mentioned before, like the first half of the song kind of sounds like it's the same thing, kind of just repeating, and then like the second half really picks up, and this one definitely does that. Like the second half is great. I really enjoy the second half, and it's kind of like the first half. You're just kind of like getting to that point. Not that it's not enjoyable getting to that point, but it does seem to be a little bit, I don't know, like too long getting there.
I didn't put any real specific notes down for, I think what's actually the last song we haven't mentioned here, but Won't Tell, song five, I put sounds like a mix between Pearl Jam and an 80s flashback. I can't remember how that goes exactly at the moment here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the one note I had on this one was that it it felt to me like the it probably had like the catchiest vocal segment on the about most of the songs. It's not like catchy to the point of like being great, but it did feel like it was more, it had something more to it than some of the others.
A few of these songs, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe in the last 30 years, you can actually understand Eddie Vedder a bit more than you used to be able to. Is that true? Not on every song, but there were moments. There were moments that if I was singing
Moments
it at a
like
concert,
the water in the plumbing because we left the fucking water running. I mean,
there was
sewage
some
running.
really appropriate swearing on this album. I did find solace in that. So that was good.
I honestly could not understand like half of the lyrics on this album.
Yeah, I mean we've already picked at that a few times already, but it's honestly it's very true. Like um I tried to listen to lyrics, and m- most of, I don't know, if I was to say like percentage wise, it's probably like right around 50-50, where I've no clue what he's saying.
Honestly, like the ones where I could tell what he was saying, I didn't feel like there was a lot of depth there.
Mm,
Like I just really, I mean, I'm sure Eddie Vedder is, still putting a lot of effort into lyrics this far into the career, but to me, this is much more just about how hard it rocks and how it sounds than it is about what the lyrics are.
yeah, I even went back and I know like Cody, you did as well, just like looked specifically at lyrics while listening to some of these, and um yeah, there's a seems to be a lot of songs where it's just kind of like very vague kind of thoughts that don't seem to be connected to each other potentially. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Anything else on tracks, or do we want to jump into wrap up final thoughts here?
Let's do it.
I kind of hit them all in a quick manner, but I think we're okay. Who'd like to go first on thoughts here?
I can go first.
Okay.
Um, Overall, I thought this was a pretty solid album. I mean, especially given, how long Pearl Jam has been at it. It does have a certain kind of vitality or vitology
Oh,
to
I
it,
see
you
what you're
could
doing
say.
here.
Um, that being said, I would probably still just rather go back and listen to, the earlier stuff. I think because the lyrics don't seem to be as big of a thing here, and I don't feel like I'm getting a lot of, depth of meaning. I it's just it's a fun album. Like it does rock hard. If any of these songs came up on my algorithm, I wouldn't be mad about it and I would listen to it. But I honestly don't know if I would intentionally, put this in my rotation and listen to this album a lot going forward. So because of all that, I gave this a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Sounds good.
Uh yeah, I enjoyed um I pretty much enjoyed the song. I enjoyed the album throughout.
A little
Uh
slip up there.
um it I found myself several times just kind of like head bopping along with it. Um, it definitely had some really some good catchy music, and like the vocals sounded good. It it still sounds like Pearl Jam. Though most of that comes down to Eddie's voice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that musically, I don't know that they really have a really strong identity. Like if you took out all the vocals of a song, um, even from like a early to mid Pearl Jam, and just played just the music, I don't know that I would go, oh, that's Pearl Jam. I don't think they're like that one of those kinds of bands necessarily.
Hmm.
Um, but I enjoyed a lot of these songs. But the problem was I didn't feel like any of them were stood out enough to be like a hit, and not necessarily something, kind of like what Joe was saying. I wouldn't like specifically go out and like replay these songs necessarily, but it definitely would enjoy like having these on. If I'm sitting around doing some chores or something, I could definitely put this on and do some chores to this. So, it I yeah, I enjoyed it. I would I as I mentioned before, it has a lot of good guitar work in here as well, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. And yeah, because that's about it. I overall I'd probably give this settle on 6.5.
6.5. All right. I'm last year, so I guess I did write down a few closing thoughts on this, just basically kind of what we've said partially, which was I didn't really know what to expect from Pearl Jam. This is probably how Joe and Dave felt when they listened to that last Linkin Park album, and it was just kind of like, oh, this is, not what I thought when this band came up. This was a little different than what I would have guessed from them, but they kind of stayed true to themselves, I would say, through all the years. Um, this is a band, we kind of said at the beginning, but for whatever reason, and I'm sure on some computer in the basement, I must have like full albums of theirs, but I don't know that I've ever listened to a full album of theirs. To me, Pearl Jam is probably like I don't know. I always associate the five grunge era bands, or at least the ones I put in a lump together, and they're like the fourth of the five, right above Nirvana, but below Soundgarden and Stone Temple Pilots and Alice in Chains. And they just never were a favorite of mine. And I don't know if it's the way they sound or if it's his voice or what it is, but it just was never a thing that did it for me. So listening to this album, I actually actually was pretty pleasantly surprised with what I heard here in terms of the tones and the styles and the solos. I think we mentioned a few times here, but I did enjoy that there was variety, and I did enjoy that even though there were some songs that sounded the same from song to song, you didn't know where you were going to go, at least the first time you listened to the album, like from one style of a song to the other. They're all rock, but they're like ballad rock, soft rock, hard rock, heavy metal. I mean, there's like blues rock, punk rock. There was all kinds of representation here, I thought. I did mention earlier, but I do think like as this band is pretty damn old now. I mean, it's weird to think of them as like a modern Rolling Stones, not from like fame standpoint, maybe, but like from they're really old now because they've been around for a long time. I do think we get a little bit of like they're moving towards the finish line there of the life and maybe of their career too. You wonder how long they'll keep at it also because they're getting up there. Um, I just really thought I liked a lot about this. I wrote down just again like the breathless pace of running to like the ballad style of Wreckage. Songs like Upper Hand, which kind of reminded me of older artists, and then Dark Matter itself, I thought was a really good song as well. So I don't know that I thought there was a quote unquote bad song on the album, and there were a couple that I did enjoy. Unlike sounds like what you two were saying, I did actually put two of them into my favorites playlist on Spotify, that being Wreckage and Dark Matter. But overall, I thought this was pretty decent. So I just averaged out my song scores on this one again, and this is going to end up with a pretty decent 7.39 overall for me. So
Wow.
I enjoyed this one pretty decently. I would say eight's a great album, so I wouldn't quite say it's a great album, but it's a good album. It's a good album. So, all right. Any other Pearl Jam related thoughts, gents? Okay.
Well said.
Hey, Joe.
Yo.
Let's say Pearl Jam called you and asked to be on their next tour with them. What instrument and or other role would you play on stage during the show?
Um, my instrument would be my voice. I would be
Oh,
Eddie Vedder's understudy and backing vocalist.
wait, so would you play it straight or would you do it in Eddie style?
I mean, if I'm backing his vocals, so I need to make sure I match with him.
So you're just
So
echoing what he already is doing. I was kind of hoping you
yeah.
were like an actual voice translator off to the side of the stage instead of like the sign language interpreter. You were just like, he said the car is running, quick jump in. That would have been pretty
Eddie
funny.
Vedder.
Oh my gosh. But wait, Joe, what if
Oh
you were
no.
doing an understudy job for Pearl Jam on their next concert tour and Jason Isbell joined because he wanted to be the next understudy for Eddie Vedder on their concert? What would you do?
No. How much how much am I getting paid by Pearl Jam?
You are making a salary of $90,000 for a 52-date tour.
Oh man, I have to fight my hero.
You
I
just,
would I would tell Jason Isbell to stick to playing guitar and to the Americana genre and leave the the expertly impersonating Eddie Vedder to me.
I like it. I like it. I have to, before we leave, I have to share with you, Joe. I was looking for some, oh, damn it, no, it's not going to pop up. I was looking for a couple album reviews for some of our music tonight, and I found a Pearl Jam Dark Matter review. Of course, I'm not going to find it now. But I was reading through it and I was like, okay, it's a decent review. And it was like this guy basically saying like all these things about, I don't know if this band's gonna be great. They used to be, but yeah, it was still pretty good. And then at the end of it, I happened to notice that it was on an Americana website
Ah,
that they
it's
were reviewing it
everywhere.
from. And I was like, what the hell? You gotta be kidding me right now.
It's
I can't
haunting
find it now
you.
though. It was like Americana something something review. I can't find it now, which makes me incredibly sad, but dang it. Oh, here it is. AmericanaHighways.org.
Nice.
I
I'm gonna
was
have to
like,
bookmark that.
you got to be kidding me right now. Americana's review of Pearl Jam. So,
It's like when you get a new car that you've never seen before or a lot of, and like suddenly you see a billion of them on the road. Like there's a name for that. I forget what it is. Some
yeah,
kind of bias.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, now Americana is just following you everywhere.
it really is. Oh my gosh. All right, everybody, that's good to us here again on Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. This has been Joe and Brett and Cody. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
See you.